Guys, I hope that if we have a handful of people here who go to other churches on Sundays, and not a lot of churches have young adult groups. So if that's you, and then you're welcome. And my prayer is always this, that your time here would strengthen you for what you bring to your church on Sunday. If Foothills is your home, then I pray that I see you on Sundays, that you're going consistently Saturday night or Sunday morning. And we just finished here at Foothills a 3-week series on community, right? Neil, Mike, and Dave all spoke on community. And my takeaway this past Sunday is just, man, community for this season of life, for young adults, is hard. Like, community's tough no matter what. But I was just thinking, for this demographic, it can be really, really tough. And I was trying to figure out why, and here's a few of the things I came up with. One, when you're a young adult, you're really figuring out who you are. And even writing that down, I felt a little bit bad. Some of you are like, no, I'm pretty dang confident I know who I am. That wasn't the case for me. At 18, 19, 20, I mean, I don't know when. I mostly know now who I am, I'm pretty sure. We'll see if I disagree with that later. But you're trying to figure out who you are. So how you fit into community and who you fit into community with can be challenging because of that. This season, we're transitory. We're moving a lot. Sometimes physically, you're moving out of your parents' home or into a new place or into a new school. But more than that, you're moving a lot in just what place, what season of life you're in. A high school graduate moves to someone who's getting into college or getting into their career, to finding that special someone and getting married, to having kids. And you go from high school graduate to having kids in a fairly short period of time. That's this group. That's the young adults ministry here. And so that's a lot of transition. On top of that, expectations for what you expect community to be like. I don't know, there's 90 of us here. There's 90 different expectations of what that looks like, of what you expect to give in friendship and what you expect to receive. On top of that, y'all have more free time than most people have in any season of life. Not everyone, those retired folk, they win that competition. But we also have... I grabbed my phone and turned off the mic. I'm multi-talented. You have access to all your friends always through your phone. So what that does is, whenever we have downtime, which is more often than not, we feel like we need to fill it, and we can potentially fill it with all these contacts we have. And so that adds to community, where we're either always seeking it out or always lonely because we feel like we should be seeking it out because we have the ability to do so. Are you guys tracking me? It's just a mess. It's complicated. And then add to that, we're Christians. And that just adds a different dynamic to what does it mean to be in community. So all that to say, it's important to have good community. We need good community. And yet it's messy. And I want to talk tonight about 2 specific forms of community that I've been asked about a lot lately from people in this room and in this season of life. I want to talk about wise counsel, and I want to talk about good company. And I want to define what those are and why we need them, and more importantly, how do we really get them? How do we have wise counsel in our lives? What does that look like? How do we find good company? And so to begin, I want to break down wise counsel, and I think we can all agree, I hope we can all agree, we need wise counsel in your life, right? You need someone in your life that's speaking wisdom and helping you with just decisions, with stuff. So here's a few verses I want to throw up. You throw up all the Proverbs ones? Oh, we'll do them one at a time. It says, without consultation or without counsel, plans are frustrated, but with many counselors, they succeed. Where there's no guidance, the people fall, but in abundance of counselors, there is victory. For by wise guidance, you will wage war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. There's that again. Next one. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. So if for no other reason, then you don't want to be known as a fool tonight at young adults. You like wisdom. You know you need wise counsel. But what does that even look like in our lives? Like, how does that actually play out as a young adult? Who do you go to? When do you go to them? How often? How do you find them? All of that isn't necessarily straightforward. And so I want to begin by going to what I think is the most textbook example of counsel, wise counsel in the Bible. I want to talk about Rehoboam. So if you guys have your Bibles, turn to 1 Kings chapter 12. 1 Kings chapter 12. Now the passage we're about to read, Rehoboam just became king. His dad was this guy named Solomon. You might have heard of him. Considered one of the wisest men to ever walk the earth, probably the wisest other than Jesus. And he dies. Rehoboam becomes king. And it says in verse 1 of 1 Kings chapter 12, then Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. Now when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, heard it, he was living in Egypt, for he was yet in Egypt, where he had fled from the presence of King Solomon. And they sent and called him, that's the king, the new king, and Jeroboam and all of the assembly of Israel came together and spoke to Rehoboam. And let me real quick give you a little bit of background. He's in Shechem, which is in the northern kingdom, right? Technically, the northern part of the kingdom. Right now, there's only one kingdom. All of Israel's all the same. But that's not really the case, at least when it comes to the heart of the people, because the northern kingdom, the top 10 tribes, many of them have already started to turn their hearts away from Jerusalem, Judah, and the southern kingdom, which eventually will be known just as Judah. So Rehoboam here, normally he would be crowned king and put into that position in Jerusalem. But he hasn't done that. He has gone to Shechem because he's trying to really show the northern kingdom, like, hey, look, I'm on your side, and I can make things better. You guys with me? And so he's there, and in verse 4 it says, Jeroboam is saying this to Rehoboam, your father made our yoke hard. Now therefore lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke which he put on us, and we will serve you. Then he said, now Rehoboam said to them, depart for 3 days, then return to me. So the people departed. Now here's the real chunk of passage we're going to break down. Verse 6. King Rehoboam consulted with the elders who had served his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, how do you counsel me to answer this people? Then they spoke to him, saying, if you will be a servant to this people today, and will serve them, and grant them their petition, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. Sounds good. Pretty straight up advice. Nothing crazy there yet. Verse 18. But Rehoboam forsook the counsel of the elders, which they had given him, and consulted with the young men who grew up with him, and served him. So he said to them, what counsel do you give that we may answer this people who have spoken to me, saying, lighten the yoke which your father put on us? And the young men who grew up with him spoke to him, saying, thus you shall say to this people who spoke to you, saying, your father made our yoke heavy, now you make it lighter for us. But you shall speak to them, my little finger is thicker than my father's loins. Whereas my father loaded you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. All right. Two very different pieces of counsel, right? One, listen to them, lighten their yoke. The other, whips, let's use scorpions, right? Two very different things. So here, Rehoboam, we're not going to read the rest of the passage, but he takes the advice of his friends. How do you think it went? Not good. Not good at all. He said that, and basically from that time on, the kingdom's divided. The 10 northern tribes said, fine, you're not our king. In fact, we don't even belong to you anymore. And they created their own nation completely, and then Rehoboam went back down and he ruled over a much smaller part of that. You see, things didn't go well, but Rehoboam had counsel. He actually had different counsel there, but something went really wrong. So I didn't know that was in the slides. Cool. What went wrong? So I want to do this. I want to real quickly define what is wise counsel. So someone shout out, who would be a figure of wise counsel in your life? Okay, so pastors, hopefully, my prayer, right? Pastors would be wise counsel. Who else? Elders. So we might say mentors. That's like modern parlance, right? Mentors. Who else? Parents. Who else? Teachers. I would put teachers within the mentor category. Someone said friends. Who said friends? Friends. And friends are interesting. I want to talk a little bit about that too, because good company, is that wise counsel? Like, that's something we got to figure out. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, let's break that down tonight. So first, on the list I have pastors, mentors, parents, friends. What's not on that list is the internet. Now, we have this thing called AI now, and you could type into AI, hey, this is my problem. And let's just say you found the wisest AI in the history of the world. Like Chat, GPT, whatever, like nothing compared to them. They're still not wise counsel. And here's why. First off, wisdom is from God. Second off, you can go online and you can, in fact, let's not even say AI. Let's say you go to pastors online. The problem with that is they don't know you, not personally, not if it's just some person online, right? Just some random. They don't know your circumstance. They don't know your culture. They don't know your faith. They don't really know you. And they only know what you give them, your side of the story, which is not the whole story. So what I'm not saying is we should just destroy the internet completely. We could talk about that another time. But I'm not saying that. You can find really good stuff on the internet. You can find really good pastors on the internet. And there's a place for that. But what I want to encourage you to do is if you find that, then you take that to wise counsel and you say, help me understand this. Because real face-to-face wise counsel is someone that's going to know you, know your circumstance and culture, be able to push back a little bit to get the whole big picture, and that's what we need in life. So, let's break this down. Who's a pastor? A pastor is a spiritual authority in your life. And you go to a pastor for spiritual matters. You go to them for often a lot of relationship matters. And why is that? Because a church is made up of a bunch of people, and y'all have drama. And so a pastor is often someone you go to help figure out how I get along with people within the church or within your family that are part of the church. You would go to a pastor for crisis. You know, there's something like part of my job is I marry and bury people. That's the what we say, right? I can officiate weddings and I officiate funerals, right? So times of crisis, you would go to a pastor. Now in a place like Foothills, this is a big church. And so you guys have my phone number. If you don't have my phone number, I'll give you my phone number. But sometimes what's best in a place like this is you're going to go to your home group pastor. One of the reasons we're doing this tournament next week is because I want my home group to beat your home groups. But apart from that, we really want to make home groups a big deal. And truth be told, I cannot meet with all of you all the time. I can't meet with all of you every so often, right? Like if I met with all of you once a month, that in itself is a very full-time job. But we have home group pastors that are there that know you even better than I know you, and they're going to be there, and then I'm available if needed. And then if Neil is still available, even at this church that's really big, Neil is not like, don't talk to me. If you guys need to get a hold of him, I can help you out with that. But so you have pastors, and they play a special role in your life. Now there's mentors. That's the next thing of wise counsel. And a mentor is an older, wiser man or woman who is living the life you want to live. Now we can be confused. What does that look like? Or what is that? But a mentor in your life is someone that you see them and you see where they're at in life and you think, I want to get there. So one thing that I do is I typically don't mentor very many people who don't want to go in ministry. Because that's what I know and that's what I do. So if you're like, I want to go into full-time ministry, that is the type of person that I would talk to about mentoring. But if you're like, I want to be a really successful businessman or woman, then I'm going to push you to someone who's doing that, right? I want to push you to someone who's living the life you want to live. Women, if you really want to get married and have a bunch of kids and homeschool your kids, first off, I applaud that. I think that's incredible. And I am biased because my wife does that, and I really like her. I'm the keeper. But you want to find someone like that and go meet with them. You know, if whatever it is that you want to do in life, a mentor is very much like a master, and you're an apprentice under them. You guys tracking with me? That's the type of wise counsel that's good to have. Beyond that, and you guys don't have to get crazy specific. If you're like, I want to be a biomechanical engineer, you don't have to find someone who's a biomechanical engineer, right? Don't go too crazy. You just want to find someone who's where you want to be. Now there's parents. Now this one's a little complicated because I know a lot of people have parents that it's rough. You wouldn't say your parents would give you wise counsel. And I want to tell you, if that's the case, you're still called to honor your parents, which means you're still called to give weight to what they say. And you might not treat it as heavily as you would if they were honoring the Lord and walking in his ways, but you are called to honor them. But if you have parents that are walking with the Lord, they are absolutely wise counsel in your life. And they know you better than anyone. So we don't want to just write that off. And finally, friends. Friends are wise counsel if you have good friends. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this tonight, because I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, I want a mentor. Can you help me pair me up with a mentor? And my dream, my hope would be to have all of you have a mentor that you can meet with consistently. But one, that's really difficult to do and to find and pair people up with. But also, here's what I know. If you have really solid friends, then you might still want a mentor and need a mentor, but it's not going to be as pressing because they're going to be friends that challenge you in a good way and push you in a good way. They're going to be wise counsel. Friends absolutely can be wise counsel. But unfortunately, because we don't approach good company and we don't approach friendship the way I think we should, too often we think wise counsel is anything but our friends. That's a bummer. In community, we don't want that. So real quick, those are who the wise counsel. I'm about to get back into Rehoboam, but I do want to answer one more thing. Why we need wise counsel. How many of you, here, we can take that down. Thank you, though. I sent in my PowerPoint slides, and I definitely should have had my assistant do it today. So there's a whole bunch in there that I didn't know was up there. How often do we face a situation when we come to a decision that sounds really good to us, and then someone else gets word and gives us some wise counsel or helps us, and then once we have a second perspective, a second side of things, we think, what was I thinking? Or how did I think that was ever going to work? We are really good at convincing ourselves of what we want to hear. And there are a lot of situations in life where our pride or our emotions or our timeline or our goals and aspirations or whatever it is taint the way we see a circumstance, a situation, so that we think this is an easy yes. This makes a ton of sense. But then as soon as we bring wise counsel in, all of a sudden holes in those plans start becoming very apparent. We need wise counsel because our pride, our emotions, our goals, our timelines in life, our expectations, all of those things cloud our judgment. Not always, but often. And especially when it comes to big things that we want to do. And so we need wise counsel. You see, Rehoboam, he knew what he wanted. He wanted to rule over as many people as possible. And he wanted to do it with as much power as possible. So he went to the elders and he got their advice, but right away he didn't like it. You could tell he didn't like it, and I'm assuming it was because it made him feel weak, but you could tell he didn't like it because of verse 8, where it says this, "But he forsook the counsel of the elders which they had given him." So he didn't consider it. It's like right away they gave him the counsel, and the very next word was he forsook the counsel, and he consulted with the young men who grew up with him and served him. Who was his wise counsel? It was people that were just like him. More than that, they were people just like him who wanted to serve him. They weren't wise counsel. They were friends, and they were bad friends at that. Rehoboam he's doing the very thing that we do all the time, and it made a mess of everything. But we can learn from him before that the counsel that he had received was good counsel. How do we find good counsel? Like, who do we go to? I want to give you 4 qualities to look for. First off, look for someone who's older than you when it comes to wise counsel. And friends could be separate than this. Now, and if not older, because not older doesn't always mean wiser. Y'all can think of that one uncle. You're like, I don't know about that, right? Think of someone either older or who is further ahead in the direction you want to go spiritually and in maturity. That type of person. Think of someone wiser. And I've told you guys this before. Wisdom comes from God. I used to have this close family friend who I thought was full of wisdom, but he didn't honor the Lord. So he gave me advice, and it often wasn't bad advice, but it wasn't wisdom. All wisdom is from the Lord. Look for someone who's consistent. That means they're not new to the faith. You know, sometimes we have these like, you know, the type of person that gets saved and they're very charismatic and their testimony is really crazy and they're really like just their personality. So they show up and they come off as like, man, they have their stuff together, but they've been saved 2 minutes. Like that type of person, not that type of person, right? If you put an instrument in that person's hand, then it's like, everybody, let's just worship him. Don't do that. Find someone who's been walking with the Lord a while. They've been consistent. Or they've been walking in the Lord's favor for a while. Because there's a lot of people who have been Christians for a while, but you barely know. But the person who's really doing what God's called them to do. And finally, someone who is where you want them to be. Where you want to be. Are there people like that in your life? You're like, man, they're living the life. Where they're honoring the Lord, their family's put together, their business is put together. Like that's where I want to be in life. That's the type of wise counsel to seek. So here's what I want to wrap up with. But then how do we choose good company that can also be wise counsel? How do we choose good company to such a degree that they push us more towards Jesus. And where even if we don't have a mentor in life, it's not like have this gaping hole or anything like that. You see, you don't pick friends based on where you and they have been, but you pick friends based on where you want to go. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying that what's happened in the past doesn't matter. Right? If someone 2 years ago saved my life because of our friendship together, you bet your bottom dollar I'm considering them first when it comes to good company. But if the same person who saved my life 2 years ago is now pursuing things that are going to destroy it, then they're not good company. So they're not going to be the person that I choose to be closest in my life. But the people that I am going to choose are the people that I know right now are on a road that I want to be on, and that's going to lead me to Jesus. I want to ask you, are your closest friends people that make it harder for you to sin? Are your closest friends people in your life that make it easier to follow Jesus? Are the closest people in your life the ones that you can go to and they challenge you, they push you, they ask good questions, questions like, what does the Bible say about that? Or can we pray together? In fact, here's the question I want to ask you. When was the last time you prayed with your closest friends outside of a church event? I don't think we actually approach friendship often like that. I hope you do. So let me give you an example. Rehoboam had counsel, but he had bad counsel. So I want to go to David. And King David, he went through a lot in life. And it says in 1 Samuel 22, David departed from there and he escaped. This is when Saul's chasing him down. Saul's trying to kill him. And it says when his brothers and all his father's household heard of it, they went down to him there, and everyone else who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented with Saul and with their situation, they all gathered to him, and he became captain over them. Now there were about 400 men with him. Now David goes through this difficult season in life. Have you guys ever been through a difficult season in life? Yes. And if not, you're going to go through one probably soon. Sorry. But what happens is we get drawn to people through those situations and those circumstances. David's in one of those times, and he has 400 people around him, and he gets to pick. Like, these are my people. They're the people who have fled with me, who have run with me. And you guys know David does pick the mighty men, right? You've heard of David's mighty men? He doesn't pick them right there. In fact, that's 1 Samuel 22. You know when we hear about David's mighty men? 2 Samuel 23. Like an entire book later, and this is what it says. These are the names of the mighty men of God. You can put up that. These are the names of the mighty men whom David had. And then it goes on. Do you see that first name? I'm not even trying. Not going to happen. But then go to the next, in 1 Chronicles it talks about this. And it says, now these are the heads of the mighty men whom David had, who gave him strong support in his kingdom, together with all Israel, to make him king according to the word of the Lord concerning Israel. Here's what's key about that verse. David didn't pick his mighty men as soon as he went through an ordeal and he looked around and said, well, let's see who's available. He paused. He waited. And then what he found out is the mighty men who we know are almighty. Like the verse before said that one dude killed 800 men by himself. And there's this like epic list of the mighty men and all the crazy things they did and how tough they were. But the ones he picked, this is what made him pick them. They gave him strong support in his kingdom, in the mission God had given him. Together with all of Israel, their goal was to make him king, and according to their will, so that they could get rich. No. According so that they could tell everybody, I'm friends with the king. Me and him, David, we're homies. Like, no. According to the word of the Lord concerning Israel. See, Rehoboam went to the people he grew up with and who served him. David went to the people who said, I want to support you as you serve God. That's like your friends should be people that support you as you serve God. That's good company. Now, I want to say real quick, you can't have a lot of people like that. David probably had too many. In fact, of his 37, we know that even of those, he broke it down even smaller. The truth is, when it comes to real close, good friends, you're going to have 2 to 5. Maybe a couple of you will have 6. You're not going to have a ton of people like that. We don't work that way. And so if you see someone and you want to be one of their 2 to 6, but they already have it, go find your own. God's good. Don't like, oh man, I didn't make it. That's it. There goes good company. Seek people like this out. Here's what I've looked for in friends. I want someone who puts Jesus first and has done that for a while. I want someone in my season of life, and remember, I'm a bit different. I'm an old fogey. I'm married and have a litter of kids. I want to find someone who's going to be in good company with me, who's raising their kids to honor the Lord, like really intentionally doing that. And I know a lot of people who are kind of doing that. But I want the closest people in my life, the people that are really saying, I want my kids to honor the Lord. I want someone who I can talk to about stuff, and I know they're not going to gossip. I'm a pastor. So when I deal with stuff that's heavy or difficult, I want to be able to confide in someone and not feel like that's all my stuff's going to be aired out. I want someone who I could go to and do something really fun with, but also someone who I could go with and I can sit and pray with. I want someone whose response to my questions are, well, let's go to God's Word. Or where is the answer in God's Word? Or maybe this is something we need to take higher up and bug Mark or Dave or Neil. I want to encourage you to find friends like that. I want to encourage you to be a friend like that. Be good company and find good company. Now I want to quickly run over a few lies, misconceptions that I get asked all the time or deal with. One is, man, I'm trying and I can't find these people, right? If I'm intentional, I'm going to find people this year, right? And the truth is, I don't know. There have been seasons in my life where it came real easily. And there were years while I was part of Foothills doing ministry where I felt like I struggled with friendship. So I want to tell you this. There are a lot of people here that you can find that are going to be good friends. But it might take some time to find the real deep friendships that I want you to have. And if it takes a lot of time, that doesn't mean you're messed up or broken or anything like that. Be patient. But it might take some time. Here's another misconception. It's going to happen naturally. Like we're just going to turn and suddenly be like, are we best friends? Right? Sometimes. But not always. One of my closest friends right now is Chris Flincher. I think I've shared this with you guys. I text him and I said, hey, I know we've talked about being friends, but can we really invest in this? And he didn't get that text. We were in a message when I texted him. I was one of those guys. But he went up during ministry time to get prayer. And I went up to pray for him. And he goes, hey, I really want to be intentional with our friendship. And I'm like, that's pretty rad. I just texted you about that. You ignored it. And he didn't get it because he was paying attention to the message. We literally just said together, hey, we're not super close friends, but you are the type of person that I want to be my close friend. Let's just punch the awkward and see if it works. And it's worked. It's been really good. You might have to do something like that And then it might not work out, and then you try it again. But it might not just be this natural, all of a sudden you have a best friend for life. It might take some time, but it's worth it. Here's another misconception. I need to meet with my wise counsel each week, and then I need to get together with my good company, my close friends, just as much, if not more. That's just not realistic. And the older you get, the more you'll realize that some of your closest friends, you might not see them for a month or 2 months or 3 months. But you know if you needed them, they would be there, and vice versa, and you'll pick it up. That's okay. I ran this by someone. If I'm wrong, I don't think I'm wrong. But here's what I think happens. Again, you guys have a lot of time, more time than most people. You have access to all your friends all the time. So what you do is at some point, you're like, I'm free for the next 4 hours. Let's see if David can hang out. So you text David. And he can't because he's a dirtbag. No, because he's busy. Because he's just living life, doing whatever. And so you're like, all right, who else is available? And you find someone's available. And then the next time you're open, you text the person you want to be friends with or you really look up to, but they're busy. In fact, a lot of the really good company that you want to be around have busier schedules than the available company. Because they're being good stewards. That's what makes them good company. They're doing things that they need to be doing. Now, hear me out. So what happens then is you suddenly keep texting the person who's not the best company or best for you company, but the available company. And then you become really close friends. Why? Because they were available. Now, is that bad? Well, it might be. I'm just punching the awkward. I'm just calling it what it is. Is your closest friend the best friend for you, or were they just available? And if that's the case, now some of you are like, oh crap. Then, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Sorry, YouTube world. If that's the case, then here's what you got to do. You got to say, hey, let's take our friendship and let's make it better. Let's challenge ourselves more. Let's push ourselves. Let's not settle for just like we get along and we're usually available. Let's intentionally pursue the Lord and seek Him and be okay with us calling each other out and doing stuff like that. And there might be a case where some of you are like, I need to drop a few friends. It's okay then to drop a few friends. And if it's someone in this group, talk to me. We got to figure out a way to just, But and by the way, I'm not being like, you just ghost them. Don't do that. That's not cool. But here's the other. So here's the deal. In your season of life, you probably need to meet with a mentor every couple weeks or maybe once a month. You can meet more often. It's not bad to, but you don't have something happening in your life every single week for always. There might be seasons, like this month, I need someone every week. That's fine. Not consistently. But if you have chosen good counsel, wise counsel to be, you're in good company to be your wise counsel, that's going to offset the need for a mentor and the frequency of that even more. You guys with me? All right. Last thing. Don't miss, last one is it up there? Oh, if a close friendship fades away, it's because one of us did something wrong. Yes, sometimes friendships just change. They fade. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to feel like you did anything wrong. Sometimes you did, and you got to face that. You know that. But the general, they just moved away, and we slowly stopped talking. And that we were really close in the past. You still be cool with them. All of these people. In fact, let's be real. You are called to have good company, close friends, and you can only have a few of them. You can have a bigger group of people that you're like, these are my friends. But then beyond that, you're still called to be friendly to everyone. All right? So there's your inner circle, then maybe there's your home group, Then there's everybody else that you're still supposed to be the light of Jesus to, but how they influence your life and you influence theirs might be a little different. But look, people sometimes friendships change. Your inner circle friendships, that position's not permanent, right? They didn't sign any blood oaths, all right? And if they did, again, talk to me later. All right. I want you to picture this. And Matt, Q, come up. And the whole band. What would be different if you were good company and you surrounded yourself with good company? How would your friendships change if your closest friends, you once a week said, hey, for this hour, we're going to talk about the very most important things in life and pray together. In fact, this half hour. In fact, what if you and your friends, you just said, hey, before Tuesday night group or after Tuesday night group or before home group or after home group or somewhere where you're already going, before Sunday church, after Sunday church, we're going to just go and real quick spend a half hour and we're going to pray together. And you're going to say, hey, this is what I need prayer for. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to pray, and that's it. And the rest of the week, we could keep doing shenanigans and sending each other memes and doing whatever we want to do. But we recognize that to some degree, this friendship is not just to like kicks and giggles and do something epic. Like we want this friendship to be more than that. We want it to be good company and to push each other towards Jesus. If you did that, I bet your life would be different. And I bet this community would be different. That's wise counsel at the lowest level. Let's run after it. Rehoboam missed it. David got it. And they have very different trajectories in their life. I want to run after people who are running after Jesus and who are going to help me do the same. You guys bow your heads. Let's pray. Lord, I pray as we talk about community, I know it's difficult because every single person in this room has some hurt, has some difficulty. I know many people have tried to do exactly what I'm talking about tonight, and they've been hurt or it hasn't worked out. And so, Father, with all of that, we want to bring that to you. And I pray, Father, that you would give us the strength tonight, every single person in here, to hold in our hands past hurts, difficulties, failures, wounds, and to bring them to you and say, God, I'm trusting you with this. And then, Father, may you give us, again, the strength. May you help us because of what we see is possible through you and good company who seek you. Help us run after this again. And I pray tonight it would start with us choosing one way where we can be better friends, where we can change what we have authority and power to change our lives to become good company for those around us. Help us to make that change. Lord, when we do that, may you change our lives for the better and for your glory. God, I thank you that when we do this, we become more like you.